Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lost Mine Pokemon Trading Card Game podcast. I am here with my amazing co-host Landon, and I am Lucas. What's going on, Landon?
Not much, Lucas. We're here in person today, recording the podcast, hanging out at the house. We went to League last night. Had some good fun there.
Yeah.
We both did pretty well. Not terrible. What's been going on with you this week, Lucas?
So yeah, I'll talk about my league last night. So last night I went to a tournament that my mom runs, and me and Landon both played, but we played different decks. He played Double Turbo Mew, and I played a cool Arc variant that I think is pretty good. So I'm gonna be mentioning that later on in the podcast. So I think I went 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
I came third, I think, and my only loss was to a Roaring Moon because I bricked. What about you, Landon?
Well, last night at League, I played Double Turbo Mew Max. I went clean 5-0. I was able to take down a Roaring Moon and a Charizard. So I'm feeling pretty confident with the Mew Max deck right now. I'm thinking we're going to be talking about it a lot today. It is my favorite deck right now after LAIC results. Seeing what's going on there, I think it's just a very well-positioned deck in the metagame. But other than League, Lucas, you also won a cup this week, didn't you?
Yeah, so that cup was so scuffed. On Sunday, I went to a cup in Chilliwack, and
That's where I live.
That's where he lives. Yeah. Wow. And I started 0-2 at the cup, and I still won the cup.
Seniors moment.
Because there was 5 rounds in seniors, and the only other senior was also 0-2 with me. So we hit each other in round 3. I beat him because he was playing Cloth, and I was playing Entei Iron Valiant.
Was that Liam?
Yeah, that was Liam.
Nice.
Yeah, shout out to Liam. Liam's cool. And then I just won my last 2 games and somehow won the cup starting 0-2. It was pretty funny. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, pretty sick. So yeah, maybe we'll, this week, just a recap of what we're doing. Last week we looked at our predictions for LAIC. We're going to go over our predictions. We're also going to look, like every week, just some of our decks we've been really liking from our testing, what we're playing at Cups, League Challenges, League, that kind of thing. And then we'll have the sequencing segment back. So we're going to be doing an episode of the sequencing segment. And then we're going to be looking at what we think the meta will look like going into this weekend's regionals. We've got the Gdansk, I want to say. Gdansk in Poland.
Like that, yeah.
I'm not going to pretend that I can pronounce that properly. And then we also have the Brisbane regionals in Australia. So there's going to be a couple events going on that we'd like to talk about. But Lucas, I think we're going to dive into our decks of this week. So
yeah, let's do
a
this.
quick little transition here.
Wow. So
Boom.
smooth.
That was smooth.
Wow.
So this is my Mew VMAX list from League last night. Pretty simple. I'm pretty sure it's 59 out of 60 of the 9th place list of LAIC. I think the only change I made was I cut the 3rd grabber for a 4th Crymomatic. It is 1 Featherball behind our screen, our faces here, sorry. But yeah, this deck has incredible matchups right now. It's very consistent. The only things you're really scared of hitting are Roaring Moon and Charizard. Definitely unfavored, but I was able to beat them last night thanks to kind of a combination of Box of Disaster plus the Path Judge Grabber combo. You can beat anything with Judge Path Grabber.
Oh, yeah. No, that's like the Miraidon logic. Into the bad matchups, you would go Path last format.
Yeah. So you always have the out of just like sacking your opponent with Judge Path plus the Grabber. Grabber is pretty awesome. It's also just a burnable card plus a Cram Pitch. So yeah, this list felt really good. Only card I'd really consider changing is maybe the Avery. It is nice into things like Gardevoir and Chien-Pao, these really heavy setup decks, but it's also kind of anti-synergy, I found. Like, someone had a Squawk, like against Roaring Moon. I just discarded the Avery instead of playing it for turn and just didn't play a supporter because they had Squawk plus Mew EX on bench, which was 4 of my prize cards that game. So it just seems like a lot of anti-synergy. It's nice against, like I said, those setup decks, but I think it could be served better. I think I'd be considering cutting it for maybe the 3rd grabber. I also thought about maybe Silene or Professor's Turos, and maybe also just another like Nest Ball or a Feather Ball or something. I just really like consistency in my lists. I mean, this is a pretty consistent deck to start with, but yeah.
I'd like to say one thing about Mew. I want you to explain what your thoughts are on the new Excelgor Mew while we're on Mew right now.
Excelgor? I don't know, like, obviously Excelgor is good into your 2 really bad matchups, like Roaring Moon and Charizard. But it's not just going to auto you these matchups, and you're then diluting your deck into every other deck. Like, you're playing 4 or 2/2 Excelgor plus 3 energies you wouldn't need to play. It's a good one-prizer, but it also is awkward with your prize mapping, because against like the Roaring Moon yesterday, I don't care if they take a turn one knockout because they still have to kill 2 of the Muvimaxes regardless. So if I give them an Excelgor, then they can go KO Muvimax, kill V, plus kill your Excelgor. So it just makes your prize mapping really awkward.
You could also, counter argument, you could not evolve a Mew in the matchup until you're done with your 2 Excelgors.
Yeah, but like if you make them go through 2 Excelgor, but then you're like hoping that you don't prize one of them, that seems like quite a...
It's weird.
Yeah. I just don't think the Excelgor is super needed. It makes your deck a little bit weaker into like every other deck.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dilute my power for matchups that are going to be... I mean, Roaring Moon with the Excelgor is probably pretty even, but I don't think the matchup's any less favored than like 40-60. Charizard is definitely worse than the Roaring Moon matchup, but again, you can just beat them with Judge Path plus the Grabber, and then like... it's really hard for them to recover from that as well, because their only draw supporter is Sodas, so at most they're drawing 3 cards.
Yeah.
And once they get past the path, you just make sure that you don't feed them stadiums, because against that guy last night, I just made him play the Pokestops or Frenzied Gouging to one-shot my Muvimax, and he was struggling to find the stadium a lot of the time. So if you're not feeding them the stadium to discard with their second attack, it can get pretty sketchy for them pretty quick.
And I think another reason that... one more thing I want to talk about is the Excelgor, I think, was a better call in the LAIC, because we had a bunch of people thinking about playing Roaring Moon and Charizard.
Yeah.
But for now, I think Excelgor isn't the most ideal way to play Mew, as Roaring Moon was seen not doing very well at LAIC.
Yeah, it dropped off pretty hard.
It dropped off really hard. And then your Charizard was... I don't even know what the top placings are.
There was 2 in top 16. Like, Charizard's definitely, like, more popular and a more powerful deck than Roaring Moon in this metagame, and probably just inherently as a deck. But to have 2 bad matchups in the room, it's really hard to justify playing Spiritomb and Drapion right now, because before last format, like, Spiritomb was good into Lugia and Mew, which were 2 really prevalent decks. Like, those together accounted for, like, at least 20% of the metagame at most tournaments. But now Lugia's highest placement was top 128. I don't think Lugia has really much of a place in this Gardevoir metagame. Screamtail is so strong against Lugia.
Oh, yeah.
But Spiritomb now went from being attacked into like 20% of your matchups to less than 10, because Mew is like a 6-7% deck. I think it was 9% maybe day 2 but of LAIC. But it's just such a narrow tech. I'd rather a lot of decks see Jirachi in there first. Like Gardevoir is going to play Jirachi before Spiritomb.
Yeah.
Charizard's going to play Jirachi before Spiritomb. There's just like a lot of decks that just can't really justify playing Tomb at this point unless Mew really picks up.
Yeah.
But even me, like, knowing that Mew is a good player right now, I probably would not be playing Spiritomb on my list, because I'd rather play a different tech or just another consistency card.
Yeah. What percentage of the meta would Mew have to be before you consider a Tomb?
More than 10, at least. Like, probably approaching 15. I don't think it will ever get there unless people really catch on. Like, if our next tournament, San Antonio, if that tournament was tomorrow, easily I'm playing Muvimax. Like, it's really good into Miraidon. Like, it's got I wouldn't say it's super favored into Guardy, but with the double box, the Path, Judge, the Grabber, you have a lot of outs into them. You're going to be able to force them through 3 attackers every game, because you can leap once, so they have to kill a V at least. This deck just has a really positive matchup spread. I'm sure we can look at that a little bit later once we've got the metagame open. But yeah, I'm really happy with Mew. I don't think that the fusion energy is really needed as much anymore, because Spiritomb's fallen off.
Yeah.
Like, the double turbo list is obviously really soft to Spiritomb, but if you're just thinking no one's going to play it, then I think this is just the more powerful version. It's more disruptive, it's more consistent, it just has more options.
And if you're worried about Tomb, you could always try to put in a Lost City and just go boss Lost City.
Yeah, you can try that too. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a Lost City here as an additional path bump as well, because other path decks is kind of an issue, because you only have the 4 vacuums. Trying to bump their paths and yours is kind of tricky, but I could talk about Muvimax for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll talk about it more
we'll
later.
talk about it again later. It's really been impressing me. I didn't really feel like any of my games were that close last night. I mean, the Roaring Moon and Charizard were the closest ones, but the other matches, I felt pretty in the commanding driving seat. And I've played Mew in the past. I've played it to regionals before. This deck has been good since it came out, and will probably never be bad until it rotates. Yeah. So
shout out to Landen playing Mew VMAX to SLC, starting 0-2 and making day 2.
I did run the 0-2 to 7-2 with Mew VMAX the last time I played it, and that was the double turbo version. So I do have some pretty good experience with this deck. I think I got 19th at that one. I got top 32,
that's really good.
Yeah, no, I've had success with Mew before, and I would be happy to play it again. But we can move on to my next deck of the week. Not going to talk about this much. This is just Kieran's top 4 list from LAIC. I really like this list. I like the churros, I like the Palpad. I do like the Luminion Ultra Balls over the VIPs. The more I think about it, I think that is a pretty sweet way to do it. With the Mirage Step, that can really account for the lack of VIP early. Although it is a little bit concerning to see the popularity of Iron Hands and things like Miraidon. That is something we'll be talking about in our prediction section.
Valiant.
Yeah, anti-Iron Valiant's tricky, but Jirachi definitely slots in here. I think you cut Crest for Jirachi now that we saw Valiant do so well. I think the Cresselia and the Jirachi are pretty interchangeable slots, but Cresselia is a little bit more like versatile.
A good attacker, yeah.
It's a good attacker into things like it can
Lost
snipe.
Box.
Yeah, it can snipe Bidoofs, can snipe the Manaphy if you want to get that off the board for your Screamtail later. It's obviously good into Mirror to snipe off Ralts and Corellia is good into Lost Box, like Lucas said. But the Jirachi is better into Lost Box than Cresselia, and it's also gonna cover the Metacham. So
yeah. I would also like to mention that there is no way to put your Screamtail at higher HP.
Yeah, no cape. I like the cape. But if you're playing Zacian, I know last week's list we had on here was not playing Zacian or Luminion or anything. Only True Prizer was Guardy, but I don't think you need the cape. 160 snipe is plenty. The cape is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like that the new Guardy lists are very disruptive.
Yeah.
I love the Countercatcher Iono Screamtail play. I love the Avery Screamtail play. Screamtail is probably one of the best new cards we've seen in Gardevoir since it's come out.
Oh yeah, Countercatcher plus Screamtail is just like we said last week. So many new options for this deck. Being able to trap things plus snipe the bench really easily is super cool. And we're gonna see a couple of adjustments in later lists. Like I think the next list I have is Miraidon, and maybe we'll transition into Miraidon.
Yeah, we'll transition into Miraidon now.
You'll see. I saw this on Omnipoke as well. There's one switch behind our face here, but I think a major adjustment of the Miraidon list is cutting switch cards for switch. That's going to really protect you from those Countercatcher plus spread plays that Tina and Lost Box and Gardevoir are going to have. Because if you have no energies on Flaffy and you're playing 1 or 2 rope plus switch cards, they boss Flaffy. It's stuck for a turn a lot of the time, especially if they combine that with an Iono plus maybe even a Path to Peak if it's Tina. So you can get really trapped and really, really screwed over.
Yeah.
But this, my third deck of the week that I'm really enjoying is Miraidon.
That I just want to mention right now that is also my third deck.
Yeah, so we're both on the Miraidon train here. I think that Iron Hands basically makes up for every weakness this deck had before Iron Hands came out. You'll notice that this is pretty much just Gabriel Fernandez's seniors LAC champion list. I think the only changes I made, I cut the second Arven for third Iono. I prefer that. I just like the Roger Porter plus Disruption late.
Did you swap the carts for switches?
Yeah. I think his list was 2 rope, 1 switch cart. I just cut the switch cart for a switch. I think the role of switch cart, like helping Lost Box, just isn't really needed anymore.
Yeah, it's more prevalent to get around some of the other tricks that Lost Box has anyway, but like it's also more prevalent into Gardevoir and stuff like that. And Gardevoir is commonly presumed as the BDIF right now. Yeah. So, like, everyone's saying that. I don't think I've seen a single person not say that Gardevoir is the BDIF.
Yeah, I think like, Gardevoir is just inherently definitely the most strong and powerful deck we have right now. It definitely has weaknesses that are exploitable, like this Iron Hands deck here. But I think we'll see moving forward. I don't think that Miraidon really needs to play Path to the Peak anymore. Last format, Miraidon's win condition into Guardy and Lost Box was Judge Path and hope they brick, because your matchup with them drawing well was pretty much non-existent. Like, you lost every time to a Lost Box player or a Guardy player that drew functional hands.
Oh, yeah.
But now with the potential of the turn 1 Iron Hands going second or even turn 2 Iron Hands going first, it puts them under so much immense pressure to respond. Because if they don't attack the Iron Hands, they just lose, like, right away.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, it's not that hard to get a turn 1 Iron Hand.
Not at all.
Second.
Like, you just need Generator. This plays double turbos.
I love the double
seal. Turbo. Yeah, this list is sick. Having a turn 1 Bravery Charmed Iron Hands taking 2 prize cards
is insane.
Broken.
I love the new 60s playing the DTEs. I thought DTE was a very good card in this deck a couple weeks ago when people weren't really thinking about it. Because, I mean, why wouldn't I want to make my Iron Hands EX attack more commonly? Yeah. It's like probably the best card in the deck is Iron Hands. And just making that attack more consistently is insane. Giving it the power to potentially attack on the first turn more consistently is insane.
Yeah.
And the DTEs really help with that immensely.
Yeah, it's also good from UEX. Like, don't discount the fact that you can just go Dynamotor attached to genome hacking now.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, you have the -20, makes the Tina math worse. Like, you're not 280ing anymore. It makes Greninja do 70-70, but in the... Like, a lot of the time, you're only 70-70ing anyways, killing Ralts, killing Comb Phase, that kind of thing. So it definitely can help attack with genome hacking. And then it's also, like, you can attach Retreat to Flaffy as well. So that's a cool extra little thing you can do with it. But yeah, Miraidon, there's not a whole lot to talk about here. It's just a really strong deck.
Insanely good.
Lucas wasn't super thinking about it last week, but I definitely figured it was going to be something to look out for LAIC, and it happened to win Seniors and Masters. So
I was very wrong.
That's okay. I was wrong about Tina, Lucas, so we both had one
Yay!
thing. But this is Lucas's list from League last night. I want to hear. I want to hear how you think about this.
This deck is so cool. So this deck is for anyone who's just listening and can't see the list, this is an Arceus Leafeon V-Star Toedscruel deck. And this was brought up, I made this with my friend, Magooey Master. Shout out to Magooey, bro. They've been playing this deck online too. This deck's really sick. You're just like Arctura. Like, this is very close to my winning Toronto Arctura list. You just change the energies, you change the attackers. And, you change one of the support lines. I think the changes were... 2 grass energy. 2 energy. I cut 2 energy, but I ended up adding the energy back.
12 energy, so sus, bro. What the heck?
I play 11.
I know you.
I played 12.
We talked about it last night before League. He was gonna play 12 energies to League.
I was gonna play 11. I was gonna play 11.
11. Oh, I'm so glad you changed it. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. So no, wait. This list plays 13.
Yeah,
we just can't do math. I was gonna play 12 last night, but then I swapped to 13. So the reason why I'm playing the Leafeon V-Star over like any other grass attacker is you get the buff of Leafeon V, which I think is really good. It happened in one of my games last night in League. I had no energy, but I had 2 Nest Balls. So I went Nest Ball for Leafeon Greening Cells. And that saved me. The Leafeon V-Star is also just a really good attacker. You put yourself up to 290 HP with the Leaf Guard because you take 30 less damage, and you're KOing, your Roaring Moons, I just can't think
Charizard.
of it. Your Charizard, yeah. Sorry, I knew that. That's why I built this. And then playing the grass energies, I know this is a very small difference, but when I was building this, I built it originally as an Arceus Pika like Toedscruel deck, but I was insistent on playing like 2 grass energies so I could spore with the Toedscruel if I needed to. So playing the grass energies allows you to play the Toedscruel, like the really good one that puts your opponents to sleep, which is a very minor thing, but I just thought it was something cool. And then I play both of the Toedscruel, so I play one Toedscruel and then one Toedscruel EX and one Toedscruel, the one that stops Superior Energy Retrieval in Chentown.
The Slime Mold Colony.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, we talked about this in Charizard last week. It's a good card.
So that won me my first game against Chenpao last night. And then the second game, I just never really needed it. So, I don't know. I'm thinking about, trying it without the Toedscruel, but the Toedscruel is really nice into Roaring Moon. The Toedscruel
stops
EX
the gouging, yeah.
Stops frenzy gouging if you can set it up. And it also stops Tina V-Star, which isn't as big of a deal because it's Path of the Peak. But it's mainly for Roaring Moon because then you're having one Toedscruel be able to cover like 3 matchups. Because the Toedscruel with the Slime Mold Colony stops your Chenpao and your Goldango. And then your Toedscruel EX stops the Roaring Moon.
Also stops Lost Mine.
That's also true, yeah.
So you can just spread your energies around too.
Yeah, which is also another added benefit of it. I play Slacking in this deck. I just thought it was cool to be able to hit for a bunch of big damage. It's something I'm definitely considering cutting. I only built this deck a few days ago, so not everything's perfect, but, I'll keep updating this. I doubt that this won't be on my top 3 next week. So the big thing with this list is I play 2 Choice Belt. I think that it's unideal. Yeah, I ended up cutting a Choice Belt for a Raihan, and the reason why I play a Raihan is so that I can go, if I attach to my Arceus first turn with literally any energy, and I'm against Roaring Moon, I can go Raihan to my Toedscruel, grab the Arceus V-Star, and then DTE, so that I can set up my Toedscruel with an energy on it, so it can't be Frenzied Gouging.
Yeah, because if you don't energy the Toedscruel,
they're just going to Frenzied Gouging it.
Toedscruel, and it does nothing.
Yeah, so the Raihan offers another layer of protection into the Roaring Moon matchup.
Yeah, plus we've seen Raihan and Arceus in the past. Like, if your Arceus with an energy gets knocked out, you still have an out of attacking. You can Starbirth for the Raihan. So.
Yes, exactly. But the core functions of this deck are still a lot like Arceus Duraludon, the one that I played at Toronto. You kind of just hand disrupt, throw big things in the active. You play the 2 Sharon's Care. I even still play the 1 Research. I cut Spiritomb from this deck for a 6th Grass Energy last night. before League. I think it was good. It was a very good pick. 6 grass energy is very strong. Having 13 energies plus your Leafeon. So pretty much you end up being able to have, 22 outs to energy on the first turn.
Yeah, assuming you have the Arc V already.
Yeah, but like if you have the Arc V already, that means you have 22 outs to energy.
A lot more outs, yeah. That really opens it up. Did you think about Superior V-Star at all?
No.
Because the Superior has free retreat. I think that I saw a list that top 32 to LAIC. They were playing 1-1 Tina V-Star and 1-1 Superior. And then he was playing a Mew EX. So I think the point of his deck was he could set up like checkmate scenarios where he could attack with their Superior, set up the Tina and the Mew EX to attack. I'm not sure what the merits of that is over this, but I think Arcpile has always a space to exist. It's just kind of finding what the best counter Pokemon at the time are. Like last format it was Dura. It's definitely not Dura anymore because Lugia has totally fallen off. But yeah, Arceus definitely has a space to exist in this list.
Definitely. Yeah, by the way, 4-path is insane.
Yes,
play 4-path in
is
your
really
deck.
strong right now.
Play 4-path in your Arc piles.
That was one of the big things I noticed about Mew last night is I was just pathing everybody, and they're really underprepared. Like, Gardevoir's playing 3 path bumps a lot of the lists right now, which is just not a lot.
Enough. That's not enough.
They've played up to like 5 in the past, so yeah, I think path is a good thing to be doing right now. Lucas, what's your other deck today?
So yeah, like I said, Miraidon's my 3rd pick. So I'm going back to Giratina, which this deck is insane. This deck is so good. Do not doubt Giratina. How many made top 8? 1. I think
there was one in top 4.
Yeah, there was one in top 4.
Their list was a little different. They're playing Forest Seal plus Vacuum, so a little bit quicker the Lost Zone. I don't mind the idea of Forest Seal, but this is just pretty. This might even be the same 60 as last week. We like tweak a couple of cards here and there, but maybe notable differences is we're playing the Iono. The top 4 list wasn't only playing 2 Roxanne. I do like having 3 Disruption supporters. Plus, Iono can be a somewhat decent draw supporter early game if you're not finding Colress. And then I think this list, we're playing an extra switch card than the other list. I really don't like 4 switch cards in Tina. Like, you're playing a Comfey deck. Just because you have Jets does not mean you can cut switch cards.
For sure, yeah. This deck also has the merit of being able to Roxanne Countercatcher Sableye.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful combo. Countercatcher is one of the best cards we've seen.
Yeah, that was the adjustment we were talking about earlier with Miraidon. They can really easily just trap your Flaffy for a turn and then just start spreading counters everywhere, which can be pretty cringe if you're the Miraidon player or whoever is getting trapped. But we've talked about Tina extensively at this point.
I want to say, I think after this weekend, I think we can all kind of assume that Tina is the best Lost Zone variant.
Well,
one of the best Lost Zone variants.
There's Sablezard that was in 5th. That's only one spot different.
Sablezard is also an insane deck. Yeah. That is something I should have. If I had tested it more this week, that would probably be on my top because Sablezard is such a cool deck. The Roaring Moon is a really cool addition. It offers, coverage in the early game, which is absolutely phenomenal. That was one of Sablezard's problems, was you couldn't deal with big things in the active.
Mm-hmm. I like that it also, just against 2 Prizer decks where you're trying to go 2-2-2, you can present the Roaring Moon early, then have to knock it out, which puts your Charizard into attacking earlier.
Yeah, Mirage Gate. It's insane.
Yeah.
I love it.
Maybe we'll talk about that list next week. We'll try and test it for then, but I don't think we need to really go on about Tina for that long because we've talked about every podcast at this point.
I want to just say, I think when you present a deck that has the capabilities of going Roxanne Path, Countercatcher, Lost Line, and you're able to deal with big things in the early game, this deck doesn't fumble as hard to Miraidon Iron Hands, because you go Roxanne Tina.
Yeah, you have the catch-up mechanism. Like Lost Box, if you don't kill it immediately, you have no catch-up mechanism. But this deck is largely a play from behind deck anyways, so... but yeah, everyone knows Tina's good. I mean, it is a little clunky. I know there's some people that poo-poo on it, but you can't deny that it's a powerful deck.
It's an insane deck. I think it's way underrepresented in the metagame.
I mean, it was literally the 2nd most popular deck day, too.
I think I said it wrong. I think people hate on the deck a bit too much for it being inconsistent.
There's too many haters. If you want to hit on a deck for being inconsistent, we should talk to the Chen Pao people.
Yeah. don't pick Tina. Tina's absolutely a very consistent deck because you have that turn 1 Abyss Seeking, especially with the 4 Jet energies.
I'm very consistent, so I think that's a little bit of a stretch. But anyways, I think we can move on from the Tina here.
I don't want to.
It's okay, Lucas. We've talked about so much Tina. So now we're gonna go.
No, it's on the same side. Remember?
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
Our bad. We messed up. We suck at this.
Yeah, so we wanted to go over our predictions from last week and how they ended up. The far left deck, this is day 1, is Gardevoir. So
Gardevoir was 17.8% of the meta.
So I'll just say what we each said last week. So we both had Roaring Moon as our number 1 deck. That ended up panning out. It was the number 5. We had it at 13% for myself, and Lucas said 14. We did have Charizard. I had Charizard as the 2nd most popular deck. You did as well. So we had it 12% for myself, 10% for you. So we're not that far off. Third, we had Gardevoir. That ended up being first.
Which is a great pick. I think that definitely deserved to be number one, but I just wasn't predicting it to be number one.
Yeah, and Lucas, you had Chen Pao as your fourth pick. I had it as my fifth.
Let's go! I'm so good at predicting the meta game. I'm joking. I suck at this.
It's okay. So we both had Chen Pao as 7%, and then I had Miraidon as number 4. It was on this graphic.
It was on the graphic.
And then I didn't have Tina on at all. You had Tina as your number 4 as well, I think.
So yeah, number 4. 5. Number 5 was Tina. So
yeah, you had 5 as Tina. Yeah, sorry.
I was one slot off of Chen Pao and Tina.
Yeah, so if you combined our top 5 decks, we had the top 6. So I think we did pretty well.
We did really
well. We
both
predicted that Lugia wasn't going to be super popular. Goldenga was nowhere to be seen. Thank God that deck is trash. I'm so glad that nobody played it and tried to prove me wrong. And then
did any Goldango even make day 2?
We'll look. We're gonna look at that.
We're looking
later
at that
in the
eventually.
Podcast.
Yeah.
And then we both had Lost Zone as our, I think, number 7, or you had it as your number. Yeah, we had it both at number 7. So that was a bit of an honorable mention. But Lost Zone did show up. It wasn't on this graphic, but
I think it was on the day 2 graphic.
It technically was. Well, we're going to get to the day 2 graphic in a second. But like I said, yeah, day 1, we did pretty well. We both combining our lists. We got the top 6 correct. Lucas had Lost Zone Giratina that I didn't have on mine, and I had Miraidon that Lucas didn't have on his. So
I would like to shout out my Tina meta calling.
Yeah, he did say that Tina was very good. It ended up performing very well. Had an excellent conversion rate. Maybe we can just kind of we can go to the
yeah, we can segue to this. Which, by the way, whenever I say something that's like sounds cocky, most of the time I'm joking.
So this is the day 2 meta. Far left is Gardevoir. Gardevoir is super overperformed in this tournament. I mean, I was really hyping up Gardevoir last week. I'm not gonna lie.
We did not expect it to be 25%.
I said it was going to be 16%, which I thought was a very high number. Like, we haven't seen a more than 15% deck in a long time.
24.6% of the meta.
That's huge. That's almost like Garbodor numbers when we had Seattle Regionals that one time, where it was like so much. No, not almost. That was like over 50%, but 25 is a very high number. That's like pre-rotation Lugia numbers. So
yeah.
Not to say that Gardevoir is going to be like this every tournament. But I think it's safe to say that it's going to be the deck to beat in this format. There's just so many tools. We've talked about it lots. But yeah, we both had Gardevoir as our number 1 for day 2. Like I said, 16% for myself, 14% for Lucas. We both had Charizard as number 2. It ended up being number 3. We had it both at 9%.
So we were 3% off.
Yeah, not too bad.
Not that bad.
And then we had Lost Box at 3rd.
It ended up being 6th.
No, actually, this graphic is incorrect. It's supposed to be Miraidon. They just messed it up. So Miraidon was the number 6 deck. You can see on the bottom it says Miraidon EX, but they have the Comfey and the Sableye there.
Yeah, okay, so they messed it up. For anyone who's kind of confused, they messed up the day 2 analysis, and they put Comfey and Sableye in the 6th spot.
Yeah, they did a little goof on the graphic.
But they meant to put Miraidon in the 6th spot.
And then for day 2, we had... Yeah, we said 3rd is Lost Box. We had 9% each. 4th place, we had Roaring Moon.
Roaring Moon's not even on the graphic, which is insane.
I agree that it was going to have a really, really bad conversion rate. But I thought just there was going to be such a large volume of them in day 1 that it just had to be in the top 5 day 2 because there's so many people on it. But
I agree.
It just did not perform.
Myself, I thought the deck was just a good deck. So...
Yeah, I mean, I still think Miraidon's a good deck too, but Roaring Moon is definitely like a strong and powerful deck you have to respect, but it's just pretty one-dimensional. We did see a lot of people playing the clone. I saw a lot of clones on Twitter this week in Roaring Moon, which Lucas said was good. I never thought about that, really.
It's so good!
Yeah. So if you're playing Roaring Moon, you should probably be playing the clones. That's a Lost Mine tip for you. But yeah, we had Roaring Moon.
I'm so proud.
8 and 11% respectively. I think you had it higher than me. You had it at 11%.
Yeah.
So you had Roaring Moon as your number 2 day 2 by these percentages here.
And I completely failed that. I did terribly on this meta call.
I think the important thing is that we both made the call that Gardevoir was the deck for this event. It didn't win like I thought, but it was by far the most popular.
I said Kyogre would win the event.
Well, we both agreed that Gardevoir was really good, but number 5, Chen Pao.
I would like to also shout out that I think I rated Chen Pao a lot. No, wait, we rated it the same.
Yeah, we both had it at 8%.
I thought I rated it higher than him. My bad.
No. And then we had number 6 in day 2 as Tina, 6%. So for day 2, we had Gardevoir, Charizard, Chen Pao, and Tina. So we're missing on our predictions. We missed the Mew EX and the Miraidon being in day 2. We had Roaring Moon and Lost Box in place of those. I'm not surprised to see Mew VMAX getting up there in percentage. Having a good conversion rate does not surprise me. As I said earlier in the podcast, I'm very impressed with that deck. I still don't think you should be playing Excelgor, though. And I think Double Turbo is the move. Just not really any reason to play Meloetta at this point. Like, there's no Spirit Team to play Fusion Energies for. So.
Yeah, so it's really only there to be a one-prize beat stick.
I'm happy to roll up to a tournament and say, if you got Spirit Team, you got me. Because you're just not going to run into it that much. And Mew, with no Spirit Team, or no counters to Mew around, is just going to run rampant. Like, it's going to slap people up. They've just got the consistency and the power there. So, yeah. And then, I guess we can transition over to Limitless.com.
Well, we can't. We said we were going to go talk about sequencing. Do you want to talk about sequencing or the
Well, why don't we look at the top 8, just compare, because we'll get all our predictions out of the way, and then we'll move on to the sequencing segment. So,
awesome.
Let's get over to Limitless.com here.
Amazing. Cool.
And
results.
So let's just say what we had as our predictions for top 8. We agreed on this. We had a full 8 between us. We had 2 Gardevoir, 1 Roaring Moon, 1 Tina, 1 Lost Box, 1 Chen Pao, 1 Charizard, and 1 Mew. So we had what? There was 3 Guardies.
We had the 2 Gardevoirs. We had the Tina. We had the Lost Box, kind of.
That's about it.
We kind of had the Lost Box.
I feel like it's kind of an easy one to say because it could just be anything.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. We were right on the Lost Box. So we had 4 of the top 8 decks predicted. We didn't see the Iron Valiant coming. Lucas was talking about Entei Valiant a lot, though, leading up to this event. Good deck for sure. We didn't say there was going to be a Miraidon in top 8.
We said there was going to be a Fusion Mew in top 8.
Mew did bubble. I don't think I said Fusion Mew specifically. We were talking about Fusion Mew last week. I just hadn't tested the matchup enough, and that I didn't think Double Turbo had any sort of chance into Roaring Moon, but it definitely does have some game into that matchup. So I think that was the reason I was so convinced that Fusion Mew is going to be the best version. But I've made a full 180. I think Double Turbo is definitely the preferred Mew. But we saw Mew at 9th, so it bubbled out. It was the same record. They had a top 8 record, but someone's got to be 9th place. So yeah, there was also a Snorlax in top cut, and there was the Miraidon. So we missed the Snorlax, we missed the 3rd Gardevoir, we missed the Iron Valiant, and we missed the Miraidon. So, I mean, we went 50%, not bad. I think that the big takeaway from our predictions, hopefully, is that we knew it was up with Guardy.
Yeah, we knew it was up with
We did know it was up with Guardy.
Was so good.
And we had the good prediction on the day 1 metagame. We had the 6 for 6 if you combined our lists.
So I would also like to mention that the DTE Mew, I think the reason why it's so strong right now and better than Fusion is because, like, as you see in the top 8.
Yeah, just look at the matchups from Mew.
Look at the matchups, yeah.
You got Miraidon, you got Valiant. Those are really good matchups. You got Tina without a Mew counter is also a very good matchup. Lost Box, especially the... I guess the Lost Box has Roaring Moon. I'd like to test the matchup because they've got the Roaring Moon in there.
We're going to test it today.
Guardy's pretty close, but you got the Boxes, Disasters, you got the Judge Path, you got the Grabbers, so you got game there. And then Snorlax, I'm not sure how the matchup would go. I'd like to test it, but just outside the top 8, we see Inteleon, Urshifu, we see a couple Chen Paos. Like, the only thing you're really scared to hit here is those Charizards.
Those Charizards seem like bad matchups.
But even then, these Charizards, we can open up the list here. These Charizards are playing Pidgeot. They're not playing the TM Zard, which is way harder to disrupt. Like, it's way harder to Judge Path the Bibarel version because they're not playing Pidgeot. Whereas this one is just trying to candy a whole bunch of times.
And there's only 3.
Way weaker.
There's only 3 path counters here.
Yeah, so they're really going to be soft to the path. I'd rather play against this version of Charizard as Mew than the Bibarel version. So if people continue to play this, but these were 2 Brazilian players, and we do know that they were kind of on this Arvinzard before everybody else. So maybe it's just an LAIC anecdote, and people will be interested in the Bibarel version moving forward. But
I think with the influx of Path, Bibarel sees a lot more value now. I mean, it's always had a high amount of value, but now that we are talking about, decks like, the Tinas and the Mews, if Mew keeps rising in popularity because it's good, I mean, it's a very strong deck. You guys gotta be playing your Mews. Test your Mews, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be. This is like a Mew propaganda podcast today, but I just respect that deck. Like, it is so strong right now. The matchups it has, like, are just incredible. And the good part about Mew is you're just always getting in the game. You're, especially with double turbo, you're always, not always, but you're the most consistent person in the room. Like, absolutely you are. So add the favorable matchups to you just drawing better than your opponent as well. It just increases your percentages into everything by an amount for sure. So
yeah,
I
would agree.
Yeah,
Deck is very strong. Your path is going to be really good into your bad matchups, and like your Charizard, your path is kind of your only out in the Charizard sometimes, and it's also very strong in a Miraidon. Like which isn't a bad matchup, but if you go first against Miraidon and you path, you can then just stop everything they're doing.
I want to have a quick look and just see what these Gardevoir lists. So there's one VIP pass. Kieran was playing no VIP, and this 8th place list was. So there was 2 no VIPs in top 8 and 1 VIP in top 8. So I think that's really
one
like
VIP.
Well, just one of the lists was playing VIPs. Like the Matthew Burns, I think he was playing battle VIPs.
He was playing the 4 VIP with the Mew.
Yeah, so that's just kind of like a deck building decision. Just on a quick note of Gardevoir, whether you want to go with like Kieran's list here with the 4 Ultra Ball plus Lumineon V, or if you want to go with something like Matthew, like the traditional VIP Pass plus Mew combination. I mean, nothing's stopping this deck from also playing Lumineon V. I
also want to check something. Every single list in Top Cut didn't play a way to buff your Screamtails at HP.
Yeah, there was no capes. I like the cape in theory, but I think the more I've picked up Guardian played it, it just in practice doesn't come up very much. Like when you need to do the snipe, and when I said like last week you don't need the boss, you just usually have the boss at that point in the game, or the counter catcher, because you've drawn so many cards. If you're going to hit cape plus Screamtail 9 energies or whatever, you never need 9 energies to 360 something. But, yeah. Plus into things like Terra Pokemon like Charizard, the Screamtail doesn't hit it for that 360.
Yeah,
so,
it's... I don't know. I'm really enjoying... I really like that you are still playing the traditional Zacian version, which just means you need to hit a slight bit less.
Yeah, like last week we were talking about how we could see the Zacian going away with the cape, because the cape Screamtail is your one-hit knockout, but Zacian is just easier to draw, right? You just need to bench it and put the energies on there. You don't need to hit the 2 cards. I think the cape is just a bit win more. If you're in a position to utilize the Screamtail plus cape, you're in a
position to Zacian boss.
Yeah, you're going to win that game anyways. So I kind of agree the more I look at it without the cape.
Yeah, Screamtail's just a way to like disrupt the engine.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
I also want to look at the Snorlax list. I don't think they're playing any active mill. Yeah, they're not playing any energies or active mill like we were talking about the Chandelure. I think Chandelure is definitely more important. It was more important last format because there was the Arceus decks with Squovit, and there was a lot of Pidgeot V running around. If we look at this tournament, there's a lot less of those things. Like, the only decks that really played Squovit were Arceus.
Yes.
And Arceus is pretty much non-existent
here. I would like to mention that I took this list from LAIC, and I added a Chi-Yu EX to the deck.
Oh, yeah. Shin was playing the Chi-Yu. He likes it more than the Crabominable because he plays 2 fires, and the second attack can boss kill a Squovit.
Or can KO a Minior. Which is
and can kill Minior, and then it has 1 retreat, so it's beach courtable if you start it, and you can just attach retreat it, whereas the Crabominable has 4 retreat cost and a bit more HP, but I think the HP nerf is kind of worth the downsides, or the upsides, sorry.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, we're going to come back and look at this again after the sequencing segment. We're going to be looking at what we think is going to be changing going into next week, but I think we can jump into the sequencing segment,
Lucas.
Lucas.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
The return of the sequencing segment. Woohoo!
So today we're doing it with Giratina V-Star. I realized after we did this that we didn't show the Lost Zone, so we'll just have to remember there was a couple things in the Lost Zone that we might have changed. But yeah, the goal of this turn is to cram hit the active. Pretty obviously what we want to do. And Lost Zone is one of those decks that has a lot of sequencing to do. Like, what things do you want to order, what things change, like... We're going to see that we played VIP Pass before doing anything because we already had all the Pokemon in hand, but traditionally, you're probably used to flower selecting prior to VIP to try and hit more Pokemon.
Yeah.
But in cases like this, we're digging for Colress, right? So we want to thin the 2 non-Colress out cards first before we draw. So Lucas, how would you have sequenced just this opening hand with the goal of cram hitting the active here?
Okay. So I would like to mention that the reason we're not VIPing first is because, like Landon said, we have the Pokemon we need. We have a Comfey, a Giratina, and a Radiant Greninja, and a Comfey. So our bench is going to be full. We're going to have everything we need. So here, I would VIP first. I would VIP for Comfey, Cramorant. I would bench Comfey. I would bench Gren. Well, I wouldn't bench Comfey first, but I would bench Gren. I would Concealed the energy.
Which
because
energy?
I would conceal water.
Thank you.
And you have a jet energy in hand as well.
Yeah, this hand is pretty strong hand.
I would conceal the water energy as I like to decide. I like to sequence in a manner of most decisions to least decisions to most decisions. That's what I meant.
Just making the decisions later in the turn just gives you the most information. Actually, a viewer of the podcast, Dino, shout out to Dino. Hopefully he's listening.
Dino.
Last night was telling me about how he lost one of his games at League because he retreated way too early in the turn, and then couldn't retreat again. So that's a perfect example of he retreated before all of his game actions and then realized he needed to actually retreat to a different attacker. But if he just left that for after he played his supporter and his item cards and all that fun stuff, he would have been able to attack instead of not being able to attack by delaying a decision that didn't need to happen yet. So I thought that was a good anecdotal example.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I agree here. VIP pass first. Then after the VIP, we're going to concealed, and hopefully we can get into a Colress off of these concealed or flower selectings.
I would also like to mention that the reason why I go... not reason. So for least decisions to most decisions, Greninja, the sequencing with Lost Box in general goes Pokestop first, because it's one decision. Am I using Pokestop? Am I not using Pokestop? Well, you thin before. So you thin, and then you Pokestop. Pokestop sees what you hit, then we'll concealed cards because we have to decide what energy we're getting rid of, and then we're gonna Colress because we have to decide 2 out of 5 cards what to get rid of, which gives us more information for the flower selecting, which we only get 2, and we have to pick one.
You have to pick between one of 2 cards, so that is like a perfect example of delaying. I mean, this is not a Pokestop deck, but a lot of Lost Zone decks are. So yeah, your usual order of operations are gonna be, like Lucas said, Pokestop, Greninja, Colress, flower selecting in that order.
And without Pokestop, it just goes Greninja, Colress.
Yeah. So I think we've talked about it in this slide enough, so we can probably go to our next one. So this shows after we've played VIP for Comfey, Cramorant, benched Greninja, and used concealed cards, in which we've drawn into the second Tina V and a Nest Ball. How would you proceed from here, good sir?
So, even though we have the Comfey in hand, I would Nest Ball for another Comfey to thin out the deck to make it so that we have a higher chance of hitting Colress.
Yeah, because the whole goal of this turn is to hit 4, and we're not hitting 4 without playing Colress. So, increasing our odds as much as possible, like Lucas said, Nest Balling for the Comfey, even though we already have it. We have basically everything we need for the rest of the game in hand. We've got 2 Tina Vs and a Sableye for later, so I'm not really worried about burning this Nest Ball now because it's not really needing to find anything
later game.
Yeah. So, I agree. Playing Nest Ball for the Comfey because we're very likely going to be going Jet.
Yes.
Possibly another switch to use. We'd like to use all 3 flower selecting this turns if possible. I think we'll see later that we didn't get there, but we did get to 4. By properly sequencing. So yeah, we're gonna Nest Ball for Comfey here. We're
so
gonna
that we thin out the deck, and then the next slide shows that we.
Yeah, the flower selecting choice was Psychic Energy Colress. We did mess this turn up a little bit later, but that's okay.
It's okay.
It's a learning experience. So
yes.
Yeah, we then Nest Balled, like Lucas said, for the Comfey, and then used flower selecting,
which got us Colress.
Yeah, so thanks to our thinning, which increased our chances of hitting Colress, we did end up hitting it. So if we played that Nest Ball after the flower selecting, it's very possible that we didn't hit Colress there because we could have drawn that Comfey we got out of the deck. So
yes,
little things like that are really important with something like Lost Box. So next here, with our little blurb earlier about concealed Colress flower selecting, what do you think our next play is, Lucas?
I mean, let's just give I think the viewers should hopefully know.
Yeah, I'd hope you put it together that we're playing Colress next.
Yeah, we're playing Colress next, as it gives us more decision. It gives us more cards to make the less decision. It's weird, but you get 5 cards and you're only getting rid of 2.
But doing it this way, you're just giving yourself the most information to make the most informed decisions as much as possible. So our next slide here is our Colress decision. So I think in retrospect, we picked the wrong cards here.
We grabbed Jet Energy, Escape Rope, Boss's Orders.
But it's because we were just, we were trying to beat the clock with the screenshots, and I didn't check the Lost Zone, and I forgot that we already lost into Psychic. So with the information we lost into Psychic, you always take the Psychic here for sure, because you only play 3.
Yeah, you play 4.
Oh, do we play 4? Oh, yeah, it's not Grass. So, yeah, I mean, it's less impactful because we play the 4 Psychic, but I definitely think, yeah, you definitely want it. I
would probably grab Escape Rope, Boss, Psychic. Maybe.
I think now I'd go Psychic, Jet, Boss, because the Escape Rope we're not playing this turn, and having a Jet for next turn is awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Jet is just 2 switches. So I think we in this grabbed the, like we said, Boss, Escape Rope, Jet Energy, but in retrospect, I would definitely be grabbing Psychic, Jet, Boss. Reason I say Boss, I'd be less inclined to take it if we weren't immediately taking a lead in the game. but it's very possible we're not going to have ample opportunity to use Counter Catcher moving forward with this because we're taking the first prize card.
Yes.
And maybe another quick thing I'll mention. We'll go to the next slide just to see our bench again. But we only have one Tina V down. It's very possible we should have had two Tina V and two Comfey instead. But I wasn't super worried about our Tina V dying because they're just playing Garchomp. If this was a different deck that has the ability to boss KO our one lone Tina V, I definitely would have put the second Tina V down.
Yeah.
But this matchup, like I was saying, I'm not really that scared of the Tina V dying in one hit. If they boss hit the Tina V, that's fine by me. Then I'm just gonna switch out of it and go on with my day.
By the way, quick little blurb. If we were to decide to grab the second Tina, that turn where we nest ball before flower selecting for the Comfey to thin the deck, we would just nest ball for the Giratina.
Yeah.
As we had the Comfey in hand and we had the Tina, so if we needed a Colress, we could always bench that third Comfey we had in our hand, and we're still getting the same amount of thinning that we got from that nest ball for the Comfey.
Yeah, I mean, it's also worth considering keeping the nest ball too. Like, how much is that nest ball one card thin worth keeping the nest ball for maybe when you get Ionoed later in the game? So that's another thing to consider too. It's maybe even possible that we should have not played the nest ball earlier, but it did end up getting us a Colress, so
yeah.
I think
I don't know.
It worked out.
In those situations, I tend to nest ball before just so I have high chance of getting Colress. I don't know if that's the... Well, I don't know. We don't know for sure, but this is just what we do, and I think we're using a lot of the main skills for sequencing that a lot of people use.
Yeah, and then with this hand here, we have the...
we have the escape rope.
Yeah, we have 4 cards in Lost Zone at this point. We've obviously Jet Energied and Flower Selecting for Mirage Gate, and where have we been off this? I think it was a switch or something. Yeah, it was switch Mirage Gate off this Flower Selecting. Mirage Gate is way more important in this Tina than other Lost Box variants because you're so focused on powering up your Tinas with it.
Yeah.
Mirage Gate is really valuable in the Tina decks. If at all possible, I'm usually keeping Mirage Gate off of Flower Selecting unless the other card is really good.
Me too. You can tend to get rid of one.
You can definitely win the game with 3 gates, but you're pretty much playing 3 gates every game with Tina. And going down to 2 gates, especially if you check your prizes and you've prized one, Lost Zoning it, so you only have 2 in deck, can get pretty sketch, especially if you're getting hand disrupted and having to hit the gates under pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, here there's the consideration of retreating into the other Comfey, using Flower Selecting to get the 5th card and playing Rope, but the obvious problem with playing Rope here is they have that 140 HP Tinglu on the bench, so as soon as we play Rope, they're just going to promote that, and they're going to eat the cram hit for free. So I wanted to get the Mew off the board here.
I agree. I think it was way too detrimental for the opponent to handle without Mew. No, not detrimental. I think it was detrimental to the opponent to not have Mew in most scenarios because you need so much to be able to...
Well, they don't need that much.
You don't need that much, but you need Rare Candy, Garchomp, and an energy in a 4-card hand. And Mew just amplifies the odds that you hit.
Yeah, I'm happy to get the Mew off the board. There's also the consideration of keeping the 60 hit pointer in play for Lost Mine later, but playing the Rope, that it's just going to get blocked by the Tinglu, and...
There's not really much reason to keep it, as the Gibbles the Gibbles are 70 HP, and if they bench another Bidoof, then they're kind of just misplaying anyway.
Yeah. I think the way we did this is fine. So we definitely at this point just retreated into the Cramorant, took the knockout on the Mew,
and this got us a Tina V-Star off the prizes.
Yeah.
And it was the opponent's turn, and we had completed the goal of getting the turn 1 attack with the Cramorant due to correct sequencing.
Correct. So that is another episode of our little sequencing segment here. I'm hoping that you guys are finding this valuable. Again, if you would have done anything differently, please leave us a comment, or you can message us on Twitter, or I guess x.com, or
Twitter. It's Twitter.
Yeah, I call it Twitter still. And we do... not last week because we didn't have the sequencing segment last week, but we do post this entire thread on Twitter as well, so you can look at it there if that's a little easier and more digestible. We also have blurbs about what decisions we made on each post. I did a thread last time we did sequencing segment where in the comments I just posted each screenshot and explained it.
I would probably do that.
Yeah, I'll be going to do that again this week. So yeah, that's the sequencing segment. Again, if you have any feedback for us on this, be happy to hear it. We're always open to feedback.
I know that one of our listeners,
Mr. James Sims. He's possibly going to be a guest.
He's possibly going to be a guest, which
hopefully.
Is awesome. So he wanted
this
to be on Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah, we'd be curious about your feedback on the tabletop simulator as well, because that way we could kind of construct specific scenarios that would be coming up. Like one of my instant thoughts was like how Gardevoir is going to answer the hands. Like how would you sequence yourself to hit the reversal knockout under an Iron Hands or something like that? Just like really high pressure situations that are going to come up. So that's something we could look into doing, or we could just keep doing it randomly on PTCG Live. Like Garchomp is not really a top tier meta deck, so I'm just not sure. Because the goal of this is just proper sequencing. It's not really about what the opponent's super playing. It's just one turn of the game. So yeah, we'd really appreciate some feedback how you guys would like to see this going forward, because I think the sequencing segment's super valuable. If I was a viewer, I'd be happy to watch this, and I think it would really improve my sequencing. It already does, because I learned things from this as well. So
yeah, it's improving mine too. It's nice to talk about it, nice to get our thoughts out about certain things. It helps improve it. It helps cement it.
Yeah, cement our sequencing.
Cement our sequencing into our minds.
I mean, we're both pretty accomplished players, but that doesn't mean that we can't improve. Everyone can improve practicing.
I agree.
Absolutely. So, yeah, our last segment today, we're just going to be talking about, there are those 2 regionals this weekend. So I more so just wanted to look, Lucas, I don't know about you, just kind of the shares of, this is the LAIC meta. We're just on limitless.com. Fantastic website. I suppose I'll just leave a link in the description of the video. If you haven't heard of Limitless as a Pokemon player, I don't know what kind of rock you're living under, but if you haven't heard of it, Limitless is fantastic. They have basically every piece of information that you need in Pokemon. They have deck lists, results of tournaments. They also have the online platform where you can play tournaments and all that stuff. So, but anyways, yeah. I'd just like to see our thoughts on what this weekend's going to look like.
So, I think we can all assume that Gardevoir is going to be the number 1 deck.
Yeah, I think Gardevoir will continue to be number 1. I don't know if we need to do another predictions exactly. Just kind of like our ideas. I think decks that are going to stay relevant for sure are going to be Gardevoir. I don't think Tina's really going to go anywhere.
Yeah, Tina's so good.
I think Charizard is also going to be pretty strong still.
Yes. I think Mew Genesect will see a rise.
Oh, absolutely. That's my next thing. Like, what decks do you think will be staying the same in rough popularity? So what do you think, other than Gardevoir, Tina, and Charizard, that are going to stay in that top 5, I think?
Oh.
Do you think anything else?
I don't think anything else stays.
No.
If you're up to date with the meta, I think it goes number 1 Gardevoir, number 2 Tina, number 3 Zard, number 4 or 5 Mew, and number 4 or 5 Miraidon.
I still don't think Mew's gonna crack. Maybe day 2 it'll crack top 5. Yeah. I don't think day 1 Mew cracks top 5.
If it's not cracking day 1, it's Chen-Pao.
I think Chen-Pao is one of my losers of the week. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if anyone follows Ian Robb on Twitter. He got top 16. He had some very, very negative words to say about his run. He said that he's never been luckier in a tournament to do this well.
Why don't you pull it up?
His tweet? Should I read Ian Robb's tweet?
Yeah, let's read the Ian Robb Chen-Pao tweet.
Because he got 14th place in internationals, which is a big accomplishment, and he was very unhappy with his deck. Where did it go?
Chen-Pao is definitely one of the losers.
Okay,
of the
so
nope. That's not him. No.
Ian Robb said, "This weekend showed me that I am never playing Chen-Pao again. This was the luckiest I have gotten at an event this past year. If it wasn't for insane levels of luck, I would have done horribly." Which is honestly a pretty accurate way to describe Chen-Pao.
Yeah.
I know I played it last week, but it's very high rolly. I mean, it's like a lot of decks have to draw well, but
Chen-Pao
does not deal well with disruption. It does not deal well with Path to the Peak. It does not deal well with getting its things Greninja'd away if you can't find the Manaphy. It doesn't really deal that well with Sableye. It just has a lot
Yeah,
lot of weaknesses. I mean,
Judge Path absolutely destroys it.
Yeah,
I didn't even have to set up my Toadscool that stopped the superior energy retrieval last night.
I know, I played against Chen-Pao in Toronto, and I was playing the Arceus deck, and you can just boss the Baxcalibur or the Bibarel, whatever they have less of in play, or if you know they only have X amount of rare candies left, and you can just boss Baxes until they run out of them. It's just really exploitable deck. Power level-wise, obviously, you can one-hit KO anything, and then Iron Hands can take double prizes on single prizers, but yeah, I think its results really show. Let's click on Chen-Pao here for LAIC. Does it have the placements? Yes, it does. So we have 14th, and then we dropped to 38th. No one was even really close to top 8 except for Ian Robb, and these are all really good players. We got Ian Robb, we got Grant Shen, we got Caleb Gedimer,
Grant Manley,
and
Nathan Forte. By the way, shout out to Nathan Forte.
Oh, Fortunat, yeah.
He was I think this was his first day 2 of the season.
Awesome.
His first day 2 in Masters.
Let's see. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Wait, no,
a cool 2K to send him home with as well.
Nah.
That's nice.
Shout out to Nathan Fortunat.
Looking at these results of Chen-Pao are not that promising. And maybe that's the adjustment. Like, no one was playing Cologne again. Like, if we look at Ian Rob's list here, there's no Cologne to be seen. Ian Rob's playing the Cross Switchers. I'm really big fan of this. This is Azul's group. Like, they're all playing it. I know Azul didn't make day 2. I think Chip Ritchie also played this deck. But the
Nathan
Iron Bundle...
Fortinet played the Sim 60. Whoa!
I listened to the Uncommon Energy podcast this week. Got to listen to competitors. But Hyperblower makes a lot of sense. Because my thoughts, I know last week I said that one counter catcher is kind of whack in this deck.
Yeah.
Not having more gust options. But Chen Pao Oko's the 2 prizers in the active spot. And Iron Hands take 2 prizes on the single prizers. So why do you even need to gust? Which makes sense to me. And then when you need to gust, it doesn't need to be a targeted Pokemon. If you Hyperblower away the bad thing in their active you don't want to take a knockout on, it's very likely they have to promote something that's going to either die to Chen Pao or give you extra prizes with Iron Hands. So after hearing the Iron Bundle, especially when they're playing the triple Super Rod here, I think this is probably the ideal way to play this deck at this point. Maybe trying to find the room for clones, but you're not playing clone without switchers. So
yeah, I like the Iron Bundle. Yeah,
I think Chen Pao's a big loser of the weekend. I think we can expect to see its popularity drop off. It might even dip outside of the top 5 in day 1.
Yeah.
I think winners though definitely Miraidon.
Oh, Miraidon's insane.
Yeah, obviously so Miraidon won the tournament, but I didn't really think about Miraidon that much. But the more I think about it, I think the deck is just like one of the top things you can be playing. Being able to turn 1 Iron Hands is cracked. That's really good.
So good. Especially
when it's pretty consistently turn 1 as well with the 2 double turbos. If we can't really show... Well, the list earlier was pretty close to Gabriel Fernandez's winning seniors list, but I think the seniors winning list is a lot better than the masters winning list. No shade to... I forget his name. I want to shout him out. Not Gabriel. No shade to Yuho Kalama here, if I hopefully pronounced that right.
Very accomplished player. Going to his Limitless page.
Oh, we got his Limitless page?
Very accomplished player.
Oh, yeah. He's excellent player, but I just really don't like his energy counts. Like 14 lightning plus 2 double turbo is what I'm playing in my list. That's Gabriel Fernandez, but yeah.
Gabriel Fernandez is definitely one of the better seniors.
Yeah, I think Gabriel's list was just a bit more focused on what it was trying to do. Like this list is a bit more over the place, but Gabriel was just accepting that Iron Hands is the thing to do in a lot of matchups, and he was just prepared to get Iron Hands out.
He even played 2 Iron Hands in his
deck. Yeah,
this
2 Iron Hands is nice.
1.
This one plays 1 Iron Hands plus Super Rod, so it is technically possible to get 2 out, but just playing 2 physical copies of the Iron Hands
is so good.
It just insulates you from prizing it, makes it more easy to have in the opening stages of the game, and then it's a lot easier to obviously chain them back to back if you have 2 copies of the card. So Miraidon I think is a big winner.
Yeah, for sure. Also, shout out to Cloth making it.
There was a single Cloth in day 2. How'd they do? 85th.
No.
Man, they got top 128. I mean, they didn't do the worst possible, but
losers. Roaring Moon is also a loser.
Yeah, Lugia is also a loser. Like we said earlier, I think I mentioned that Screamtail's really good in Lugia, but we watched Tord play. We're not going to say anything else about Tord, but we saw Tord play on stream and just Screamtail the Archeops back to back, and then the Lugia player did absolutely nothing. And I think that's how that matchup goes every time. I mean, Lugia might exist by just playing Manaphy now again. They did play Manaphy in the past for like things like Amazing Raikou and Kyogre, but...
Like, let's think about the matchup spread. Your Charizard matchup's bad.
Here, does it have win percentages on here? Oh, that's only online. We don't have to go that deep into it.
Yeah, but you also got to think, like, Lugia, what are your good matchups? Your good matchups is Lost Box. You take a good matchup into Sablezard deck. You're taking a probably favored matchup into Tina. You take a favorite matchup into Tina.
Yeah, the Lugia has traditionally been good at Giratina.
Yeah, but you also, I mean, you take probably... But you take a bad matchup to Miraidon.
Yeah, you're washed against Miraidon. You're terrible against Charizard. You're terrible against Gardevoir. Your Mew matchup's not that good.
Your Champa matchup is, like, fine.
The Champa matchup's okay. I mean, it's like... And Roaring Moon doesn't seem super awesome. Like, I just don't know what's making you want to play Lugia at this point. Like, Lugia before was just really inherently powerful. And like, what's the highest place?
80th.
80th, yeah.
80th.
And are they colorless or are they single strike? Probably colorless, yeah. Colorless, they're playing the basic energies, but yeah, I just don't think there's any reason.
They're not even playing Iron Hand.
What? Wild. But they're playing...
They're not playing Lightning.
Oh, they're not playing Lightning. Wild. Yeah, I just don't think there's any reason to be playing Lugia right now over anything else. Like, even if you want to slot the Iron Hands in here, like, why are you not playing Chen Pao or Miraidon as the better Iron Hands deck? Like, I think Miraidon is just by far and away the best Iron Hands deck.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Being able to Generator to it is crazy. Having to jump through these Earthen Vessel hoops, like playing basic energies in your Lugia, sounds great in theory, but it's just not that consistent either.
Yeah, and also Roaring Moon, big loser of the weekend.
Yeah.
Everyone was presuming it to be number 1 in day 1, got to like 8% and came 4th in day 1. And then what was the top Roaring Moon? The top Roaring Moon in day 2, there was only 6 in day 2, and we predicted it to be like 14, or like what percent of the meta? 8% of the meta?
Yeah, we said a pretty high number.
Yeah, and it was only 4.48% of the meta. The top placing Roaring Moon deck was...
I said 8% day 2, you said 11% Roaring Moon.
Yeah.
90th. It did even worse than Lugia.
It did even worse than Lugia, which is absolutely insane to think about.
Wait, can we go... Are they playing Colognes?
Wait, let's
I'll go
check.
back to this.
Top placing list. Cologne.
They are playing Cologne. Okay.
Whew. Second placing list. No Cologne. What about third? Sorry, I'm so intrigued in this.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah, there's a couple Colognes in here. Yeah.
Okay, so there are people catching on the Cologne, like they're not playing it, but and then for winners, so maybe we'll recap. So from this list here, Gardevoir is going to stay the same, I think.
Oh yeah.
Maybe go a little bit down. I'm not sure if it's going to have quite this meta share now that it's kind of out of the bag here. Like people know what's up with Gardevoir being so good. I think Gardevoir, Tina, and Charizard will probably remain in the top 5.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Miraidon kind of encroach, maybe even be the number 2 or even number 1 deck. I would not be surprised to see Miraidon number 1. Like it was number 1 Pittsburgh the first regional this season.
People love their Miraidons.
People love the deck. I think the people that, like last week we said that Miraidon people will be switching to Roaring Moon. I think the people that did that, the Roaring people are going to be switching to Miraidon now. So yeah. I think Miraidon is going to be huge this weekend. That's my biggest prediction. I would not be surprised to see it as number 1 deck.
Big winners.
Entei as well. I was going to mention that Entei.
Entei is a huge winner. 3 Iron Valley and Entei's second place, while the other ones didn't do as good. 60th place. Top 64 is really good.
Top 64 is still respectable for sure. I mean, not to say any day 2 placement is definitely a good accomplishment, but
shout out to
Wellington Luis Linz Zuby Fieldhow. That is a mouthful of a name.
That is an insane name. That's a sick name. Yeah. I love that. So yeah, this deck, very strong. I'm so happy that people caught on.
Yeah, I think the Entei Valiant, though, is like another example of a really polarized deck. It seems really familiar to Rapid Strike in its matchup spread. Like, this is why I want to play Mew, because you see these guys and you're just like, yummy matchup.
Go.
You love seeing Entei. Their only chance really is if they get turn 1 attack and then can back-to-back boss Genesect. Like, they just cannot KO a Mew VMAX in one shot. It's not possible. So anytime Mew gets 3 turns against a 2-prize deck, they're just gonna go boss and win.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that matchup's great. But Entei has great matchups in the little things. Like it's got Gardevoir. Like if we go back and just look at the meta share here. Yeah, you got Gardevoir as a great matchup. You got Giratina as a great matchup. You got Charizard as a great matchup. You got a bad matchup here. You got a good matchup here. Good.
You got a good matchup to Chen Pao.
Miraidon's pretty even because you're just a 2-price race.
Yeah.
Lugia is probably not great. Roaring Moon's...
It's okay. It's definitely okay because what you do is you try to force like them to KO with Frenzy Gouging once during the game.
Yeah.
And then
it feels like a very similar deck to Rapid Strike. And if we looked, if we were interested in online results, which we're not going to show today, I
just want to show one thing because one of my friends did do really well.
There was an online tournament with a top 4 that was late night
154, 3 Urshifus in top 4 and Snorlax 1.
Yeah. So I think maybe we'll go back to.
Shout out to...
I'd like to keep on the real life lists.
I know.
But we had a 10th place. We had Urshifu in top 16.
Let's take a look at the 60.
They're playing the good Remoraid's. I saw someone on stream playing the non-Rapid Strike Remoraid's, which is kind of whack.
Okay, what does the non-Rapid Strike Remoraid do?
It just has 70 hit points.
That's kind of worth it.
Why? I mean, just because you can't retreat with your stadium and you can't auxiliary for it. Not that you'd really be often auxiliarying for Remoraid, but retreating it with... Tower of Waters is definitely something huge, I want to be doing.
I love that the 60 plays the... Oh, wait, my bad. I thought I saw Avery instead of Arven. Which, by the way, we should be trying out some Averys and some Urshifus. Why wouldn't we?
I mean, sure. It's just like, this deck is pretty clunked, right? Like, you need real draw supporters. You're already playing a draw 3 in Melanie, but... You're playing 4 research for a reason. This deck historically has been one of the less consistent decks to be playing. But I'm curious what the reason you'd want to play this over Entei Valiant and vice versa. Like what the matchup spread difference is. Because you're both losing to Mew.
You take a better Rapid Strike matchup. I mean, not Rapid Strike. You take a better Miraidon matchup probably. But slightly.
Yeah. I think they're both pretty even.
Yeah.
You're definitely like more favored into it with Inteleon Urshi, but... you only have 2 Urshifus. If you prize a piece, then you're kind of screwed. But yeah, interesting. They're playing the TM Devolutions. That seems really good. Like into all the Evo decks, obviously. Like Gardevoir probably just gets shredded by this. It's really good into Charizard. I know this deck kind of struggled into Zard a little bit last format if they got past the opening stage of the game where they have their things evolved. Because going from 60 hit points to 330 is quite the difference.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really deal with the Zards once they were fully evolved, but TM Devo kind of solves that problem. And then one other thing I really want to note here is Cheryl is kind of outclassed by Turo in this deck. Pretty much the same effect as Cheryl.
Except you get the slight benefit of, like,
you can pick up your Squawk, you can pick up the Metacham.
You can also pick up an Inteleon VMAX and evolve.
And one of the big things,
you can also use Radiant Alakazam twice.
Yeah, you can Zam twice. You can reuse the Inteleons. If you say you had 3 Inteleon V-Play and you had, like, 1 non-evolved, you could use both Double Gunners, Turo, and then use it again on the fresh Intel V. Yes. But it's also... This deck has only historically played... this isn't even playing a Rope. So, but it's got Palpad Turo. A lot of the time into this deck, I would boss a Zam. Like when I was playing Lugia in Pittsburgh earlier this year, I played against a Rapid Strike, and he had me bricking pretty hard with his Spiritomb down, but I just went boss Alakazam, and then I drew out of it eventually because they only play 1 Rope, so they're going attach, retreat, and then I bossed it again, and he was already down his escape rope. So this Turo is another way to counter that strategy because this is not a Rapid Strike Pokemon that can retreat off the stadium. So this deck also always had that little tiny weakness of Alakazam getting stuck, like guaranteed for a turn once you were down your rope. So having the Turo plus Palpad kind of gives you an out to that.
Super strong, yeah.
Yeah, I think it just is like Cheryl, but has a lot more utility.
Yes. I agree.
Decent buff for the deck. Turo is just a great card that we're going to see throughout its lifetime in a lot of different places.
Oh, yeah. We'll see a stall deck eventually that has like 300 HP and you Turo spam.
Yeah.
Turo, 4 pennies. Absolutely crazy.
Broken.
Like, I love it.
Plus 4 Terrans if you want to go that far.
Oh, true.
But maybe we'll just recap like what we think. Like, so Lucas, let's say, what do you think is going to stay the same? We said Tina, Zard,
Gardevoir, Tina, Zard. And I think
losers. So your losers.
I think my losers are definitely Chenpao, Lugia, Roaring Moon.
I agree.
By the way, I just want to say shout out to Snorlax Doll. That was definitely a winner. Yeah,
Snorlax Doll. You really should be respecting Snorlax. Like Snorlax is not a fake deck anymore. Like people are just like, oh, Snorlax like fluked into top 8, but no, the deck is genuinely very strong. A lot of things just don't have outs into it. There was one in top 32 as well. Can we click on his list quickly? I want to see if he's playing an active mail card. Oh, whoa, this list is...
Whoa.
He's playing Pidgeot. I don't know how I feel about Pidgeot.
You play the Luxray. This is really cool. You play the Tomb, the 2 DTE. So it's a more disruptive Snorlax list.
Yeah, but Control is just a very viable strategy at this point. Like Gardevoir does not have really any outs to beating Snorlax. Can we go back to the screen?
The screen?
No, the just the metagame here.
Not bad.
So yeah, if we're looking at Snorlax, you've got Gardevoir as pretty much an automatic win.
Yeah.
Charizard is pretty much an automatic win.
Tina's a terrible matchup.
Tina's an awful matchup, like pretty much as close to unwinnable as you can get. We saw that on stream in top 8. Kyu Toga just got slammed by Tina, especially because his opponent started Tina V both games, so that's annoying. And then
your Mew matchup is probably favored.
Yeah, so if you were we're just like spitting the same stuff over and over again at this point. But wrapping it up, I think if you're going to a regional this weekend, you should expect the top 3 decks to probably be Gardevoir, Tina, Zard. But Miraidon will be a huge increase in play this weekend. Again, I think Miraidon will probably push one of these decks out of the top 3. So I think top 5 for next week, a little bit less formal than last week, will probably be Gardevoir, Tina, Zard, Miraidon, and then maybe Chenpao number 5. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Lost Zone decks creeping up a bit more now too, that people have seen the metagame. But Lost Zone people also might be scared off by the Entei a little bit. But I don't think Entei's an amazing play moving forward.
You take a really bad matchup to, your Zard. Not Zard. No, I missaid that. I misspoke. My bad. I misspoke. Your Miraidon matchup's like 50-50, and you're going to be hitting a lot of those.
Yeah. There's just going to be an influx of Miraidon, which is not something you really want to see. And then I think Mew is going to be an excellent play this weekend. I would not be surprised to see Mew win at one of the events, especially Australia. Australia has a history of Mew being dominant in their events. I think there was an event where Mew was all top 8.
No, that was Palkia.
Oh, was it Palkia?
That was Palkia.
Mew was really popular once, but anyways,
I think we can kind of wrap this up here.
Yeah, just some of our quick thoughts going in the next week, and then is there anything else you really wanted to say, Lucas?
I mean, not really. I don't know. I think the top 5, like I said, it's probably going to be Guardy, Tina, Miraidon, Zard, Chen Pao. That's my guess.
Okay, yeah. And then, I think you should be prepared for extra Miraidon, extra Mew this weekend.
Make sure you play at least a couple test games into Snorlax Doll.
Yes, make sure you have an answer to Snorlax Doll if you
don't want to
just take an auto.
You might not want to play Mini War.
Yeah, we
play
talked
something
about
more general. Play your Turos and your Palpads.
Yeah, I think that's
if you want.
That's valid. But yeah, anyways, I think Lucas, do you have the outro this week?
You have been listening to the Lost Mine Pokemon Trading Card Game podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a good one.
See ya.